forget the recording. This is our bonus class with our Vedic astrologer and transformation specialist.
Ah, there's people. Yay.
Hogarth. And we don't know what's going to happen. Hogarth might even sing songs for us. We might sing songs. We might talk about dynasty.
Oh my God.
We might gossip.
Really? Are you going to go there?
Hi, Ayana. Oh my God, Ayana's so beautiful. But yeah, so we couldn't resist actually inviting Hogarth to actually inform us about all the different things that are happening in the collective.
So much.
And so what's going on is as soon as Hogarth arrived, I was like, Hogarth, Chiron retrograde. I'm a bit worried. Can we talk about it? And you know, of course, he then said to me, Angelique, Pluto retrograde. Pluto is like, can you? So I want to set the what is it? The framework of what we're going to do. And Ellen, you may also add to it. So basically, what I've seen is, you know, because we're so into transformation work ourselves, but also with people, there's a lot going on that's triggering everybody. So let's say our faith in governments, our faith in economy, our faith in media, our faith in our health and the medicine, you know, whatever we're being prescribed, but also our personal lives. And, you know, also the bigger picture of why are we alive? Why are we here? Why is this happening to us? Is this happening for us? And how can I transform? And of course, in the appreciation game, we really want you to know that you are the master, you are powerful, you are able to co-create things that I want to have the speaker view. What do we have that now or not? Okay, so you are the co-creator of your life, and you should never give your power away. The best teachers teach us that no matter what happens, we are always, you know, to some extent in control of how we give meaning to it and how the end result will actually, you know, come into fruition. But that's up to us. And a lot of the things that are happening have to do, I feel, with collective consciousness and mass consciousness. So there are different things happening. So there's the planetary shifts happening. There's a divine plan for what's going on with the collective. Then there's the mass consciousness that responds to it. And then there's the individual response of people like us that are here to inform you and are doing the work ourselves to tell you, no, you can't change this. And so, Ellen, is this something that you would like to add around, you know, how we can look at what's going on? No. Well, she's holding the flamingo, so she knows what she's talking about. So imagine that with all the stuff going on, you read the news every day, you could completely come here in the tissue. And the tissue for us is your program, is the way you've conditioned to respond to things that are going on. So you could be thinking, oh God, I'm a victim. Oh God, people are doing this to me. Governments are doing this to me. Why is this happening to me? I'm the victim and I should protest, blah, 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 blah. What would the flamingo say?
What would it say? I don't think it would say anything. It would just be cool with everything.
I think yeah. But some people have to watch the news.
Yeah.
I think the flamingo would really, you know, study maybe, and instead of like, you know, post motivational quotes on their timeline, the flamingo would actually do the work. And so, but yeah, I've spoken enough now. Hogarth, what is your? Can you tell us a little bit about Pluto and what we're going through? Because I think we've discussed it before in other interviews, but it has been pretty tough with Venus retrograde and Pluto, and then Chiron coming up, and
well, it has, like in a way, like to describe everything that is going on with all the craziness right now, I have realized it can all be encapsulated in my t-shirt. Because if I stand up, and what do we see? It's the masses. It's like this is Pluto. Imagine this is the. Imagine like this is what Pluto is doing right now.
I'm leveling the props here.
So basically, we're just going through some very intense alignments at the moment, and almost everyone on planet Earth is being triggered in one way or another, and it's impossible to kind of escape it, because in essence, what's happening is like the solar system is like a clock, and we are now back in times that are basically very similar to when Martin Luther created the Protestant religion, you know, when he rebelled against the Catholic Church, which I can't remember that, 15, 17, something like that. We're also in the same times as in the Middle Ages with like the Knights Templar, and when we people first started to getting surnames. So everyone used to just be called John or Dave or, you know, or whatever name. And then they started to get last names to describe what they did as a profession. And that's also the times when we started to get the first census and stuff like that. So all of this categorizing, documenting, creating these new systems, but we're also at the same time in times of like when the fall of Rome actually happened as well. So it's a time of things breaking down, but it's also a time of new things being built up. So there's great opportunities as well. So we're seeing a lot of, maybe a lot of very distressing things happen, a lot of very difficult things happen, because Pluto is about, you know, death and destruction. However, Pluto can also represent the highest energies as well of humanity. So what are we noticing as well? A lot of people are praying, a lot of people are finding their spirituality through these kind of crises that Pluto brings around. So it's going to be an intense time, everyone, at least until the end of this year, but it's also part of a process. But basically, essentially, the planets are just doing a lot of stuff at the same time. We've got something where Saturn and Jupiter are going to make a perfection to each other on the winter solstice of 2020. So that is going to be fascinating. So it's going to start a whole 20-year new cycle for people. So whether those two planets, pardon me, wherever those two planets meet in your chart, wherever those two planets meet in your chart, that's your new life cycle for the next 20 years. Yeah.
20 years.
Pretty deep, huh?
So what will happen? So we were
years.
talking yesterday about some people who are really doing the work, and what we notice is it seems like some people are just studying and resorting into taking more courses, and actually what we see, those people seem to not be transforming. And how do we know that, Ellen, that they're not transforming? Like,
there's different things. You can sort of sense the energy. They speak differently, and they expect things to change, but it's not really changing. So there's like, why is this not working out? A little bit of a chatter.
Entitlement.
Yeah.
So they're really like, in a way, they're feeling like victims, and they're like expecting things to change just because they know things. But actually, what what I really understood about we're online. If you want to come, you can come in later, Daniel. We have a host full of people here. A house full of people. But basically what's going on, if what people do that do not do the transformation work is they tend to do what a lot of people have been doing, is they know it, but they're not doing it. And so basically we see them doing a lot of courses and not actually they're not even attending the courses that they're on. Very often they're not even like showing up. They're not doing what they should be doing, or when they're doing it, it's just like, it's like when they come to the office, but they're actually not performing. And what Hogart was telling me about Pluto is asking to go in the underworld. What that means is we meet our shadow. And your shadow, maybe you should talk a little bit about that. Your shadow is the stuff that is most hard to face. And I can tell you, I have gone through a lot of shadow like the last 3 months, or maybe longer. And, it wasn't voluntarily, it wasn't fun. And Hogarth knew about that. And I had to face the deepest parts of my, the things that you would like to put under the carpet. You don't want to look at it, and you want to focus on the sexy stuff, money.
That's not me.
money, you know, success, you know, luxury, blah, blah, blah. But actually, and this is the thing, why can we not face the Pluto underworld stuff? Can you maybe explain that? Because I've studied Jungian analytical psychology, I know a lot about the Hades, the underworld. So for me, it was like I knew it, and I could see that if I wasn't going to do it, it would become worse in my life. I just knew that. So maybe you can explain how people are avoiding the work and how scary it is to go to the underworld, but what are the benefits from it? Because I'm now going up and I'm like seeing, oh my God, I must look at, if I wouldn't look at it, that would haunt me for the rest of my life. So we really want to make this a super aspirational, uplifting, Hades underworld, transform or die type of like broadcast.
Yes, I mean, it's, yeah, Pluto is very intense. So like out of all of the planets, that is the one that people have the most caution with. However, it's also one of the most neglected planets as well. So if we look at, say, like conventional science now, Pluto is a very small planet, but it was downgraded to a planetoid and basically just dismissed by the scientific community as just a glorified asteroid. Yeah, just a speck, you know, just way out there, like a little bit of dust, not doing anything. Whereas we know it has a lot more, exactly, it has a lot more power than that. This is like Pluto's revenge, no, not Pluto's revenge, but, you know, like this is like Pluto, the sleepy little thing out there that actually has a lot of power. So, but what Pluto symbolizes is the deepest transformations that we can go through, because of course in traditional sort of like in terms of Greek mythology and Roman mythology, he was the god of the underworld. So Pluto very much represents the dark journey of the soul, which some of you probably would have heard about.
Or the ego.
Yeah, or the ego. And we can see that this is happening all around us at the moment through all areas of life. Because when the inner planets, which go up from Mercury up to Saturn, which is like a border between the two, when they come in touch with Pluto, there are big transformations. So it's big cycles. So we've had Jupiter and Pluto come together, and Jupiter tends to represent the stock market and finances and stuff like that. What have we been seeing because of coronavirus? All of that being turned upside down. So Pluto, whatever he touches, he tends to transform that thing. But he's so powerful that transformation happens whether we want it to or not. So it's very difficult because Pluto is a very painful planet. We tend to run away from it. We don't want to do that work. We don't want to go there. But then he can pull a lot of levers, so he can just pull things, and then the trap door opens, and then you end up going down through anyway. So this is just a process that we can't resist. We've seen recently in the last few months that we can't resist the coronavirus. We can't resist the changes that are happening, but we just have to go with it. So that's what the whole Pluto transformation is about. You embrace, it's almost like embracing the pain of the change, but the reward you get is something incredible. So it's almost like anyone that's watching this that has given birth, for example. Let's just say that. It begins.
And if it's a man, because they don't really have a clue of PMS and giving birth, you know, how would you say to a man? Maybe it could be like, you know, like when you are a man and you want to achieve a big goal, could be a body goal, like you want to lose weight or you want to do a marathon. It's that type of pain and that type of commitment, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, although men we don't give birth, but there are many guys that are fathers that have seen the process.
Yeah.
So, what everyone knows about birth is that once that birthing process begins and the labor pains begin, there's nothing you can do.
No.
And it just goes through, and you just have to go through it, and then you almost have to embrace the process, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's what Pluto is like. No one says, you know, oh, I'm really looking forward to my childbirth coming up. It's like, okay, this is something I need to go through. I have to surrender to it. I know I'll get through it. Yeah, I know it'll be painful, and I'll get through it. But then what will I have the end. And that is what that Pluto process is like. We have to face all of those difficult emotions, all of those maybe past traumas, all those thoughts and beliefs that we hold on to that are very dear. And what Pluto does, he strips everything away and he only leaves you with what you need, the essence. So what happens is that you get, you know, the baby at the end, and then you just look at that and you just go, wow, it was worth it.
Yeah.
And
it was worth it.
I always think about forest fires too, because they're so essential. We always think, oh, they're so bad, but because nowadays they're so big, and that's not natural. But forests need to be burned down every now and then, and then it becomes super fertile, and then all this new life grows.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think that's a pretty metaphor, because it's just so. It looks like forest fire, everything's destroyed, but then all this beautiful new growth happens, and it's essential actually for the
Absolutely,
forest.
and because sometimes it just has to be cleared away, because we're so. If we think about it, like human beings, we like security, we like comfort. We're so good at accumulating baggage. I mean, like for me, like one of my really bad habits, which I'm trying to get the best of now, is, and it's going to sound really I keep accumulating plastic carry bags. Each time I say, look, I'm supposed to take a bag with me, and sometimes I do, and then I end up taking another one, and then before I know it, I have like these bags that are just like building up. We as human beings, we all have our baggage, our little tics, our little habits, which can kind of protect us for a certain amount of time, but then we reach a certain point where we're carrying so much baggage that we don't need. It just holds us down, and I call it ballast. And that's the term we use to describe on a hot air balloon. The ballast keeps the balloon anchored in place. But when we start getting rid of our baggage bit by bit, what happens? The balloon starts to rise. So we all need a little bit of ballast in life, because a balloon without any ballast, what happens? You just go way out into the atmosphere and no one ever sees you again. So it's about...
I want to do the translation for those of you who don't understand metaphors, okay? So, not to insult anybody, but I think some people really need like the harsh words of maybe the Enneagram 1 here. Enneagram 2, wing 1. I was Enneagram 1. Basically, imagine that what we could call, when you do not do the transformation work, the way that I've seen it, because I've lived this for a long, long time, is you push things under the carpet, you don't look at it, but you don't feel comfortable about that life. You don't feel comfortable, you don't feel confidence, and you actually feel trepidation. So you might go into these areas. So it could be business, it could be relationship, it could be, you know, a new goal you set yourself. But deep inside, you feel deep lack of confidence, and you actually have this really scary picture in the back of your mind, but you ignore it. You ignore it all the time. What is going on right now is that because of the planetary shifts, and you know, many people have said we have to do it because the whole collective is ascending, and because we cannot ascend when we are very down in the programs, in the conditioning of who we are. Ascension means we are going to raise our vibration. Raising our vibration means that we have to let go of things that are not truly us. So actually, it seems like going to the underworld is like, oh my God, what am I losing? It feels so scary and painful, but actually what's happening, and I've been through it right now, is you're shedding a lot of the pains and the lies and the illusions about who you think you are, and you realize you are this baby flamingo, and ultimately you become closer and closer. You understand, no, I'm not, we call it the flamingo, we call it the truth, the higher self. Yeah. No,
Really
you're using it as a metaphor. Another metaphor, sorry.
On it. How much you love yourself.
So basically what you're losing is ballast, is all the lies, all the illusions, all the wounding myths you tell yourself. You're not good enough. People treated you a certain way because something was wrong with you. All of that stuff. You were having panic attacks because somebody abandoned you, or your parents treated you a certain way, or your ex-wife, or your blah, blah, blah. You start realizing that everybody is here having a crappy journey, and everybody was treating each other on this level because they were not themselves. Because people, when they start understanding, what you're shedding is not something you should be holding on to. What you're shedding is stuff you should let go of, because they're all lies, because it's really about who you are. What you're shedding makes you transform into what we call it symbolically the flamingo. the higher self, the true self. And the way that I've dealt with it is really looking at my lack of self-love and a lack of wounding around the child, and a lot of stuff around abandonment and the illusion of rejection. So I had a lot of like illusions about that, and I was living it in my body. I'm not saying this is easy, because once your body is conditioned into this, you will do everything you can to hold on to this, because you think this is what's going to keep you alive. But actually what's going on is, when you do the shedding, and you do the work with your great professionals, or you do it in a community, what will happen is you let go of all these, I would call them illusionary fears and illusionary stories about how people treated you and how you saw them. And what you suddenly see once you come on the other side of the underworld, let's say you come out of the other side of the underworld, you become this, you start thinking, wow, what was I believing? I was believing that I wasn't good enough, that people treated me a certain way because they were horrible to me. Actually, you start understanding everybody's treating you the way that you see themselves. Everybody is going through their own journey. And the more that we can actually do the work and come out on the other side, the more that we can cultivate compassion, the more that we can actually see clearly what's going on, right? Yeah, because if we stay in the underworld, like if we do not do the underworld journey, how will that impact a person's life? Because you're saying the 20-year cycle. What's going to happen when, let's say, what we see around us is people are in denial, or they're escaping, or they're still in victim mode, or they're still in saboteur mode, or they're still in knowing mode, and they do not deal with the real pain of shedding. I will tell you, the tears that you cry, the fear that you will feel in your body when you're doing it with like experts, they are the last times that you will cry these tears. Because once you've cried them, you've purged them, you actually think, wow, that pain was so painful. I believed it for 50 years, but it wasn't even true. That person, my mom, my dad, they didn't want to abandon me. They were in their own pain. So once you shed that pain, you understand that pain wasn't just yours. It was the pain of your ancestry. It was the pain of an archetypal journey. But you're not going to take it personal anymore. And what will come out of it is this beautiful, beautiful self-realization of how much love is in the world, how much you were loved, how much you were never abandoned, how much you were never rejected. So maybe Hogart can explain what will happen when people do not deal with all of this abandonment, rejection, failure, guilt, shame, all of that stuff that's nicely there for us to like look at. Like the dark side, right?
We'll be lasered.
Yeah, basically that's what Pluto will do. It'll drag you out of your bed and be like.
Yeah, but that's what happens.
I'll do it for you. I'll make you do it.
Because you say transform or die. What is dying? What does that mean? Because if we're going to look at a 20-year cycle, so let's say you're not doing the work, you're just accumulating a lot of knowledge, or you're just business as usual. I'm just going to blame all these other toxic people. It's them, not me. What will happen in the 20-year cycle when it starts?
Okay, so basically what we are now at a point in humanity, in the human experience, where things are beginning to kind of separate out. Now we can all see this, because look, anyone watching this will have seen it happen in their own lives. So think, for example, if we think of a very simple COVID scenario, over the progress of the virus, people have really discovered the truth and essence about almost all of their relationships. So there have been people that we have been maybe stuck with, that we don't want to be stuck with, and we've reevaluated our relationships in that way, in the sense of maybe we actually have come to really appreciate those people in our lives, which has happened for a lot of people. There have been a lot of people who've realized, wow, certain relationships have to come to an end, because they've just been faced with all of the stuff that maybe they've been avoiding, that they can't avoid because they've been trapped, haven't they? They can't move. But also as well, people are having different perspectives on their friendships as well. People have really found out who are the friends that are sticking around and who are the friends that maybe aren't, because we've not been able to have that casual interaction as we would have before, where we could just easily meet someone for a coffee or lunch. That's been restricted. So it's really required this extra effort. So we've also found out, oh, okay, who am I prepared to make an effort for? And we've all been having these internal dialogues, and it's just kind of naturally happened, don't you think? Where I think you were mentioning how friendships are still there, but the energy of that friendship has changed. Its emphasis is not quite the same anymore. So because Pluto is so powerful and it has this strength to do, make us do that work, if we don't do it, there is no choice, because basically what's happening now is, the way I describe it, it's like curds and whey. It's like making cheese, yeah? So what you start off with is milk, yeah? And so milk is almost like the universal consciousness of the collective that everyone's in. And then Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter, to an extent, they're the rennet that you pour in. So you know that chemical that you pour in, it's that acid. And what starts to happen is that milk begins to separate into curds and whey. So you could say the curds, because they're heavier, they sink. That's almost like the three-dimensional thinking. And then you have the whey, which is much thinner, and that rises. And it looks originally, when you look at the whey, you think, oh, surely all the nutrition and all the stuff is in the curds. But anyone who takes like whey protein powder, have you noticed with these protein powders, it's like whey protein powder, this, that. It's because that's where the most nutritious, powerful and transformative parts are. So although the curds look like they have more, it's the whey that has that. Someone just going.
I don't think he was the key.
Oh, bless.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, there we are. And it's the whey that has that really nutritious part. So what is happening now is that life on Earth energetically is separating out. So you've got people that might be holding on, like if we describe the curds as the obvious stuff, fear, resentment, anger, jealousy, victimhood, all that kind of stuff.
These are very normal emotions. All of us have resentment, all of us have victimhood, all of us have blame, where we're not taking responsibility, where we're basically looking at people who've done us wrong in whatever way, and we think it was them, not me. Mm-hmm. And all of that stuff, and then the problem is, if you stay in that level of consciousness, it's very likely you'll repeat it again, because that's really how life works. Mm-hmm. You haven't learned a lesson, it will come back over and over again. So how would you talk about people that have a lot of resentment and lack of forgiveness? Because and maybe the other side, some of the light workers I see, they have a lot of guilt. They take on all responsibility. What would you do with that, Hogie?
Well, it's part of it is just understanding. Look, nobody's perfect. Yeah, this is part of the human journey. So a lot of people refer to it as Earth School. Yeah, it's Earth School. Yeah. So we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and what's the point of a test? It's not supposed to be easy. We're not supposed to have all the answers. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a test, and we wouldn't learn it. But what's happening now is that more so than ever, because basically Earth is raising our vibration, she's going up to 5D. You can't get there with all of that ballast of the curds. Let's put it that way. So you can say Earth is moving into the way and trying to leave behind the curds.
The curd is all the consciousness under 200 in the David Hawkins scale. So it's shame, guilt, apathy, grief, anger, pride, fear. Mm-hmm. Desire is also one of them.
Yeah.
We have a video on that. We'll post it underneath. What it means.
So there's that's all that's happening. But now what it really is about, we now have to consciously move up that level. So there are interesting things that are happening. So for example, a lot more people are praying, for example, because you can imagine coronavirus,
meditating.
People are feeling, exactly. People are feeling maybe vulnerable, or they're just feeling, I just need to step up to the next stage. So there was something in the UK, they said 1 in 20 people in the UK have started some kind of spiritual practice since lockdown for the first time in their lives ever. This is extraordinary, and that's just in the UK. So you can imagine in other countries and stuff like that. So all of us, it's about being more present, and it's about stepping into compassion. Also, as well, it's about self-forgiveness as well. People have to really try and not only forgive others, but forgive themselves
Completely.
for
Yes.
mistakes that they feel that they've made. Because when you're in the curds, it's the curds, yeah? You're kind of trudging through life, and it's hard to feel enlightened, you know, and all of this kind of stuff. So
It's hard to feel
forgive yourself.
amazingly joy, because, you know, I think because although you might have periods of joy because you've released some kind of big pain, or you've had a huge moment of insight which may give you more compassion toward people that you thought hurt you, or yourself. You have a bigger picture, you know, you have a more spiritual, evolved view of what was going on in your life, what caused you so much suffering. I think, you know, it still feels, because of what's going on in the planet, that there's more to come. It's not over yet.
Oh, there is
you know?
more to come.
There's a lot, like, you know, I myself am a result of seeing a lot of layers on the layers. It's like, first you work with your direct relationships, then you work with your parents, and then suddenly other things come to mind, and it's just like delving deeper and deeper. But the more you resolve the biggest core issues, which is compassion and understanding, and not judging others or judging yourself, seeing that everything has a big picture, the more you actually can ride this wave in a more, I say, less destructive way. That's what I would say. And that is because we had this other interview with Hogarth, and he said, if you're not doing it, it's going to be harsher. But if you accept that this is going to happen, you accept that there are days that you're going to feel horrible, you're going to feel pain, you're going to feel like, why am I feeling this pain again? Why am I resenting myself? Why am I like not further? It's actually because there's more, maybe something more that you need to face. And, you know, and actually when you look back, you will feel, oh my gosh, what was I hanging on to? I was hanging on to this belief that was so debilitating, so harmful to my sanity, to how I see the world. I could never, ever have held on to that belief and believe that I could make a relationship, a business, my life work. So we're looking at the fundamental belief systems that are going to affect you, that are going to affect the rest of your life in every area. Most, I think, I would say, Hogarth, most of the things that I've been faced with are actually really about identity, and about what is the nature of who I am, and how am I co-creating these dynamics with so-called other people, money, life, you know, the cosmos. That's how I would see it. It's like this crisis is forcing us to face really who we are in a sense. And we are not our emotions. We're not the moods that we have when we're in the underworld, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're actually
what's going on.
Yeah, it's just showing us what we need to deal with, and it's very hard to do it without help, I would say. You know.
Yeah.
And what would you say about people who are just doing like lots of knowledge, just reading lots of books, you know, maybe listening to a lot of webinars, but they're not dealing with, you know, the emotional, painful stuff?
I mean, what I would say is like, it's like with anything. Like what I would say with that is like, you know, when you see those wildlife programs, yeah, and especially like in the UK. So let's just say two eagles come, like, because eagles are amazing birds, yeah. And like maybe not so much, like flamingos are great. Flamingos are great as well, but they have a different style.
Yeah.
But so I hope you're not offended. She's just like, but an eagle one is one of my favorite birds. But if you see how it goes, it's a good analogy for life, but particularly like the Pluto energy. First of all, if you think of an eagle, it's a very harsh bird. It's beautiful, but it's very scary. It's not a bird you would necessarily welcome into your garden. Yeah, because why? It's huge. It's got a huge, sharp beak, and it's got incredible talons. You know, it's claws. If you've ever been gripped by a bird of prey, you will know it. So that's what Pluto is like when it comes into your life. It's like that bird of prey. But if you imagine like the raising process, so birds of prey, they tend to have maybe a maximum of like 1 to 2 or maybe 3 chicks, but it tends to be 2. And the reason why it's 2 is because those 2 eggs then have to fight when they hatch, they fight each other. And sometimes it can be actually a fight to the death. You will actually see one of the chicks.
Born to fight.
Yeah, it happens with sharks as well. Every shark is born a twin. But what happens is the strongest embryo will eat the other one. Yeah. And that is
definitely
part.
important to kill.
Yeah. So that's part of the. We call this. This is what we refer to as like survival of the fittest. Yeah.
Wow.
So we are having these energies where we can just feel like, oh my gosh, we're in survival of the fittest. So what is it doing? It's triggering anyone, like all these emotions and stuff that are buried. Like, say it's like this.
First 3 chakras,
and then it goes. Woo, all of this stuff starts to come up. Yeah. And then we're like, oh my gosh, because we sense this is survival of the fittest, because it's almost like the virus is also reinforcing that as well.
Yeah.
So the virus is triggering very, very our deepest amygdala, human, kind of almost like monkey brain and reptile brain, really, fears of life and death and survival. That's why Pluto is known as the planet of transform or die.
Oh.
But so you can say that we're going through that process where Pluto is coming and feeding these chicks, but it's feeding us with these spiritual transformations that we have to make. And there are some people that will eat that food, even though it doesn't look very nice. Because if you think, when a eagle comes to feed its chick, have you seen the process? There's this thing that's mangled up, and then it's like pulling away, isn't it? The strips. And feeding it to the chick. It doesn't look like a nice process. Do you see what I mean? Because something is being torn up. Something has died and it's being torn up and it's being transmuted by that chick. But you'll see sometimes there will be a chick that has a less appetite for that process. And you will see over time that chick gets smaller. But the ones that are eating the food that doesn't look very nice start getting bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. And then what you'll often find is that chick that didn't want to eat that food, you find it's at the bottom of the nest. And then you'll find the chick that's been like, I'm going to do the work. And then what does it start to do? The feathers start to grow. Remember, they start off as stumps. And then the feathers gradually start to grow. And then what do you see the chick doing? Flapping.
I think he's watching a lot of Discovery Channel without telling us.
No, but I'm very interested in nature because the story of nature will teach you so much about the journey, the human process. And then what happens is, so in terms of going back to what you said about people going on the courses, that is like the chick testing its feathers and flapping its wings, but maybe not feeling quite ready yet to take that flight.
Because maybe they're not really asking for the right help. They're just like, because you do need a mentor, I think, or a coach or a leader to help you. But
it's that process. But they're showing their intention. So although they're not flying yet, they are showing that they're willing to do that. That there is something for them to learn. But we all know the big transformation process is the point of when that chick has got its feathers and it has to take its flight. And that is always one of the most dramatic things. And it's a miracle each time it happens because it's amazing. And that's us, that's our soul when we're like, okay, we are ready to actually fly out into this new world. Because what is most scary is not the ugly bones and bits and carcasses at the bottom of the nest. It's the mountains out there, the forest out there of potential, the life that we could be living. That is really terrifying because then we really have to have a leap of faith. I know it's a cliche to say, but it's true. And what happens is the masters, the parents, the eagle parents, shall we say, if the chick isn't going to take this flight, do you know what they do to get the chick out?
Shove it up.
I don't watch Discovery Channel. Please tell me.
No, what they do to get the chick out is gradually the parents starve the chick.
Oh yeah, of course.
So what they do is they go,
sounds
right.
like corporate life.
Yeah.
You get fired.
Yeah.
So what they do is they feed the chick and then they leave it for a few days. And the chick, of course, is sitting there like, where's my food?
Yeah.
You've been feeding me like you know, it's been used to just having the food come and just eat, the same old stuff. And the parents are like,
they're crying for it.
Exactly.
They're like begging, Mama, please. Usually when I peep like this, you come and help me.
Absolutely.
Mom's like,
exactly. It's like, no. So what is that chick feeling at that point? It's feeling those feelings again of what? Abandonment. You've left me. You've been feeding me. So it can be almost like that, like when we're on a course or something, when we're used to being fed information, and then it reaches a point where we have to digest that and actually take responsibility.
And do it.
Absolutely. So they come back to feed the chick again to make sure it doesn't starve, because it's getting a bit weak. But then over time, they just leave it, and it reaches the point where the chick is so hungry, the chick is like, I don't give a damn. I'm just going to jump out there and fly.
And eat whatever mouse I find.
Exactly, whatever they find. And then at that point, that alchemy is complete. And then we start learning new lessons. We're always learning lessons, and we're always going through this process. And that's part of why people don't want to do the work, because they understand once you complete that level of work, there's always more. I don't know.
I love that
Comparison. Thank you, Natalia.
No problem. Thank you. There's always more, but don't worry about that extra work, because what happens? The eagle does what? It flies higher and higher and higher and higher.
Does ABBA have a song about eagles?
Yeah, there is a song. It's one of my favorites as a kid.
Why do I remember this?
But then,
it's always uncomfortable, that growth.
It's always uncomfortable. It's always uncomfortable because...
If you just want to stay comfortable, you're going to stay the tissue.
Yeah, you stay the tissue.
You need to face the discomfort.
Absolutely.
Do we want to grow?
Let us remind you that whatever... So he's giving a really mild comparison or analogy.
I would
say...
Mild? I think that's quite poetic.
Don't starve the child, and then it'll figure it out.
The thing is, I think when sometimes when you look at the underworld myths, we're talking about rape, we're talking about like really dark stuff happens. The thing is, like, we sometimes feel, sometimes it can be other people doing it to you, but if you look at the bigger picture, there's always like a transformative effect about the contracts that we have with people that we meet. And that's because I don't believe in random events. I believe we have soul contracts with certain people, and certain things are predestined in a way. Like, you can't avoid them. Like, astrologers, I think, can see when certain things are going to happen.
Yeah, it's called samskaras. Samskaras.
But you still can avoid it. You still have free will, right?
Yeah, you still have free will.
It's not 100% predestined, I don't think.
Absolutely, and that's correct. So it is basically.
But your soul lessons cannot be avoided, right? So you have free will to not take your soul lessons, but you might still have that, relationship end. You might still be fired. You might still have that accident.
It all depends. Yeah, it all depends. So what Angelique is referring to is something that's discussed in Vedic astrology, which is called samskaras. So they're essentially they're kind of types of karmas, but they come in 3 different levels. So you've got your light ones that you can negotiate with. You've got your medium ones that you can more use with free will, and then there might be 1 or 2 that are just certain things that have to happen. But they may not even, it doesn't even mean that they're bad things. Like, for example, you can have someone who's got a very strong samskara to, say, be immensely rich, and you look at that person, you'd be like, what's going on? Everything is falling apart, blah blah blah, and then suddenly they have this amazing trigger. And it could be just that when their Mahadasha sequence, this planetary sequence, lined up at the right time to trigger this karma or this really positive thing that was supposed to happen to them. And you can see that very much in the rags to riches story, stuff like that. Yeah. And of course there's negative stuff, and we know about the negative stuff. There is some stuff that has to happen, but there's far more negotiation available than we realize. So, but the key is, though, we have to use our free will consciously. And it doesn't mean you have to necessarily write something out every day, but just be aware that, okay, I can take an action that's going to lead to a more positive outcome, or I can just surrender, or I can just forget and just run on autopilot. Because we run on autopilot. Like, we can't think about everything. Like, think of the things that we can't think about. We can't think about digestion. Yeah, for example, imagine if you had to think about digestion.
In order for it to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to add this chemical to this apple to get this into my cell, and I'm going to do that. It's impossible. So most of our stuff is run on a subconscious level. And it has to be, because if we were to think about all of the stuff that happens automatically, life would be impossible. The trouble is that we can live our lives completely unconsciously. And if we do, we will get the results of, say, like our chart, for good or bad, on autopilot. But when we can actually start consciously using our mind, we get more and more freedom. But it also means more responsibility. So, it's a mix.
One question about the 20-year cycle.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people are wondering, can I do something? Like, okay, I'm going to set the tone for this 20-year cycle coming up. What can I do to set this tone? Because I don't want to be that unconscious and have it just.
I don't want the repetition of my
absolutely. You want to be on the
seat,
driving seat. So one of the best ways to obviously find that out is to get your chart read. Yeah, and that's one of those things. It could be anyone. It doesn't have to be me. It could be anyone. There's lots of free stuff online, as we know. So you can just look up the free thing online. And then what you need to look at. So on the winter solstice, 2020. If you flick forward to that time, or when you get your chart up, but you will see where those two planets meet now. So, for example, this is going to be happening in sidereal Capricorn.
So Jupiter and Pluto, right?
Sorry, Jupiter and Saturn. So I forgot to say. They have a 20-year cycle together. And what they do is they effectively reset society every 20 years. That's why when we look at something from 20 years ago, it just seems like, wow. It seemed like a whole nother life. It just seems like a completely different life. Your priorities would have changed that much. So say like for us, like the three of us, we have Cancer ascendant, and the sign of Capricorn falls into the 7th house. Yeah. And the 7th house is also about the outside world. So it's about relationships. So that can also bring new relationships in. So there can be a lot of new romance out there, marriage and all that kind of stuff for Cancerians. But another thing it can really bring, and what it talks about, is it can also talk a lot about business and relationships, just dealing with the outside world in general. So if you were to take, for example, like a lot of the things that you discuss in terms of business and transformation and stuff like that, that will be the theme going forward for the next 20 years. But you see, it makes sense because you're doing it already. So it's stuff like that. So for example, with someone that might be an Aries ascendant, Capricorn falls into their 10th house. So that means the next 20 years, those themes are going to be to do with like, how can they have a more impactful career? Hopes and dreams and karmas that they take on for other people, because it's a very public house. And it's those highest ambitions and highest potential that we also do for others as well as ourselves. That will be a theme for everyone that's got Aries ascendant over the next 20 years. You have an Aries moon. So if you think, when you combine the 7th house with your moon placement as well, doing transformational business for people that for the highest good that lifts everyone up. You see? And it's kind of like that. You kind of stitch those things together. And when Saturn and Jupiter are in that place, they're saying, this is your area of growth, but this is also your area of service where you're going to be doing a lot of stuff for other people. So it's very important to know which house that is happening, and the house is dependent on your ascendant. So
okay, so people go to their birth chart, they look at the ascendant, and then look where Jupiter and Saturn are in the chart. Yeah. And then they know in which house it is.
Exactly.
And then they research that house, and then they can sort of set the tone. Absolutely.
Okay. And you can do it for Vedic astrology, and you can do it for tropical as well.
You can do both.
You can do both, because both the energies will happen. Tropical astrology will be one sign ahead, or most of the time it's one sign ahead. But both energies will be real at the same time. So it would be the energy of Aquarius and Capricorn for everyone, but which house
That's important.
that energy is happening in is dependent on the ascendant.
Always descendant. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the ascendant's also different. So we're Leo ascendant in
Exactly.
tropical.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
tropical we're Leo ascendant, which will then be happening in our 6th house of work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to make it very personal because I think that it will become more like, what is it that people understand it. So imagine that I, when I had a personal consultation with a Hogart a while ago, and I was like really struggling because I was triggered all the time because I hadn't looked at certain things. I mean, he told me right from the start, you have karma around abandonment and rejection and betrayal. And if you overcome that, you will be invincible. And of course, that was the thing that I thought I had worked on because I was doing what I would call the knowledge thing. I read every book.
Yeah.
I listened to every
You
audiobook.
literally knew everything.
I literally knew everything. I did all the
She was
trainings.
rapping. She was a chick.
Yeah.
At the end, she was like,
But what was I doing in relationships? Yeah, so I would go into relationships and then I would just like go up to a certain point and I was triggered again because I didn't look at it. And then things would just go boom, like, very often, very quickly, because I didn't want to do the work. And it wasn't because I didn't want to, because I thought it was enough to know. It's not enough to know.
yeah, you have to do.
We have to do. And I can say, looking back at the last few months, I was forced. I was forced to look at it, but it was because the right people were in my life. I was lifted up by a helicopter.
That's what I did. I was like,
when you do the work, when you do the work, just like this
Phoenix.
helicopter that comes in and it swoops you up, so you're not going to be eaten up by Pluto. Pluto says, hey, there's a lounge there, and when you take this helicopter, but you have to do the work. So basically how I did the work was, I wasn't just in knowing, I actually had to do the real work, which is meet my shadow. So whatever you think is the guilt of somebody else, your exes, your parents, your, whatever it is, you look at yourself and you see, how did I co-create this? How was I responsible for, this pain in this relationship, this lack of self-love, this lack of self-honoring, all these things that I believe about myself. So I had to look at that. And you know what? It was the most rewarding crisis ever in my life because it wasn't easy. I mean, I know Hogarth was there, Daniel was there, Alan was there, a lot of my mastermind, some of you were people that I worked with in Theta Healing or in Faster EFT, and I did a lot of different modalities because I knew that my body, it's not easy. My body was going through a lot of crisis, a lot of panic attacks, a lot of almost depression-like type of symptoms. But I had to go through it because I knew what was on the other end. And I knew that to meet the shadow, you have to listen to that voice telling you, you're a victim. You're never going to heal. You are going to be stuck for the rest of your life. Who do you think you are? And I knew that wasn't me. And I knew, hey, you know what? I'm not you, and I'm not going to listen to this voice. And this voice is going to tell you, this person treated you so badly. This person abandoned you. This person rejected you. This person wounded you. It's their fault. And I was like, of course, with Daniel, our amazing, healer and, archetypal consultant, he was like, Angelique, that's your victim. That's your saboteur. Shut it up, transform it. And I went to victor, and I went from saboteur to like, being the somebody who could see my sabotage program, and I could see, no, my saboteur wants to be a winner, my saboteur wants to grow, and so you can transform it. But you need to, what I want to say is, these voices, you have been living with them for a long time. You've been blaming people around you, you've been blaming your life, you've been blocking people on WhatsApp, social media, you've been divorcing them, but it's not them. When we go to the underworld, the only person we have to face is ourselves. The only person we need to listen to in terms of the crazy chatter that you believe that is conditioning your body into panic attacks and to fear and to victimhood is yourself. So that's the only way I could say that's how I dealt with it. That's when you know you're doing the work. Everything else is just like escapism and blaming people and talking to your girlfriends or about how this person did not, deserve you or ghosted you or blah, blah, blah. We created all of that. You were a vibrational match to those people. So who are you going to look at? You're going to look at yourself. And the thing is, once you come out of it, you think, oh my God, this was what I was doing. I don't have to look at other people. I don't even have to talk about them. I only have to look at myself. And this is from me being who I am, with integrity. It was the hardest work I had to do, but the most rewarding work of the whole world. Nobody can pay you the amount of self-love and self-honoring and self-confidence that comes from when you start looking at this as you creating it and knowing that you're not it and that you're that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Because I think there's not one way to do the work.
No.
Everyone has their own way, but I was wondering, how do people know it's their way? Because the ego might be like saying, oh, that's not the way, but it actually is the way, but it's just sabotaging yourself. So how do you think you can figure out what works for you? Do you just try out different things and see what fits?
How do you know you're really doing the work instead of just knowing it?
So actually fooling yourself and sabotaging yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, what you raise is a really good point, because first of all, let's just do a kind of like a nice call out for the ego for a start.
Yeah.
If we didn't have an ego, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't even have a sense of self. And that's what the moon actually represents. The I consciousness, like
the sun.
Yes, the sun represents our pure soul, like what our essence actually is. But when we come to Earth, we forget, don't we? We forget.
We forget.
And so the soul, that's why they call the sun the Atma, because he represents the pure, undivided soul, our shaft of light from the divine. That's what you could say. That's why wherever the sun is in the chart, that's also where the kingdom is, where we want to build. But it may not be obvious to us at first that that's where we need to build our kingdom. So that's why the moon represents the ego, because the moon is memory, the mind. Mercury is the mechanism of the mind. It's like the software on the computer, but the moon is the hard drive. So, and the moon is the storage of memory, but for everyone's memory.
Is it like the Akashic records?
That's what I was about to say. So it's everyone's memory. So anyone who's had any kind of incarnation on Earth at all, and even beyond, that will be stored, and that is like the Akashic record. So when people are talking about the Akashic record, it also matches up with the symbology of the moon. So as we come through, as we incarnate, we get our download, based on our karmas from the moon. So it's like our soul goes through the Akashic records, and we're like, right, okay, and it gives us the coordinates, and we're born, and we come in with that ego and that memory from lifetime to lifetime. So each time we leave our bodies, and we might be away for a while and might have an incarnation somewhere else, but when we come back to the hard drive, which is the moon. And that's why a chart can be read from the moon or the sun or the ascendant. You see?
Yeah.
And what you were saying in your question, which was,
how do you know if
that's it. If it's actually true, or if you've imagined
your
it.
path or your type of
how do you know you're doing the work? Like some people, like for me, I love energy work. I understand shadow work. So I have a coach that was telling me, Angelique, all the things you're saying about these people, look at yourself, So I think really, so shadow work, energy work, belief work, releasing a lot of things that actually make you shift your beliefs. I think it's really, valuable. But I think everything that makes you look differently at a situation. Let's say you were super resentful about your parents treating you a certain way, or your ex-husband or ex-wife, right? Or your boss, could be anything. And suddenly you do these sessions and you actually have to look at yourself. Why you are having these like reactions all the time, and it's not just one person. Very often when you look at patterns of people, it's just like you go from relationship to relationship, jobs to jobs, country to country, you keep meeting the same challenges. And why? It's because their reaction is stuck at what we call the levels of consciousness. It could be fear, it could be grief, it could be pride, it could be shame or guilt, or desire. So I think any type of work that makes you shift levels of consciousness, where you go out of victimhood So you see yourself as a really important common denominator of all these painful experiences or these failures, and you actually look at your own patterns. But I think these patterns actually need to shift. So at the outcome, maybe not one session, maybe 2 sessions, maybe 4 sessions, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, you need to see yourself responding differently, right? Wouldn't you say so? Like you feel differently, or you are less vindictive, you're less resentful, you're less in agony about what happened. You're more in acceptance, maybe call that word, maybe more in surrender even.
Well, the biggest change really, when we know that we're, because look, it's all a process, yeah? Everything is a process, and there's not every, it's like, when you're truly doing the work, it's not like there's a part of you which goes, oh, I am truly doing the work.
Most of the time we're like, I think it's so hard.
Right, precisely. It's a process. Yeah. But when you know when you're coming out the other side is when you can recognize and this is not always the case, because remember, people, we're creating scenarios and karmas and stuff. Everyone is in their own messy process, yeah? So sometimes when something negative happens to you, there is that idea of like, oh, maybe I've manifested that, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe actually you haven't. Maybe that person was just horrible, yeah? Because people do horrible stuff, and they will then have to reflect over maybe their next lifetimes and resolve that. So you've got reality happening that level. But the deepest work is when you realize, say like you have a very difficult parent, for example. Yeah,
narcissistic or abandoning or workaholic.
Exactly. So, but this is a common one, because so much of our stuff comes through our parents, and it's very difficult to undo those things. If you have lovely parents and you're blessed with lovely parents, great, well done, that's amazing. But most of us have a challenge.
Then you usually resent that too.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't learn how to be in the real world. You didn't
Precisely.
teach me.
Exactly, because
it's
then
always
we feel
the
that
parents'
pressure.
fault.
Yeah, exactly. We feel that pressure to uplift. And again, like that what you said there, that shows how much work that you've done, because when you can actually see, oh, my mom or my dad or my brother or my sister were like this because of this, but I can also see how I'm that way as well.
Yeah. Then
what happens is you have a releasing, and then you actually start having this forgiveness process. And what starts to happen is that your heart starts to get bigger and your compassion begins to get bigger, because you can go, actually, that shitty thing that you did or blah, 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 you know what? There is a little part of me that has that little streak. I can see where I've inherited that from you.
And without feeling the guilt, without being like, oh, I'm the worst.
I'm terrible.
Then you
exactly.
just switch it from them to you. That's
exactly. So it's like, for me, like when you're doing the work, is like when the energy goes backwards and forwards, and it's like you're gradually going forward, yeah. Whereas there can be that belief of like, I've done the work, and it's like almost like this, and then you're in this new future, living this life, and actually it's like, no, actually life, it goes backwards and forwards like this, because we all have to review, and every teacher, no matter how masterful they are, needs a teacher as well. And the higher up you go, it doesn't mean you don't need to be taught anymore. It just means that on that next level that you're on, you have to go through a little pendulum backwards and forwards. And it's like having that rebirth again, isn't it? It's
every
like,
time.
Every time. Exactly. You hatch the egg, and then you've got a new nest to fly. Yeah. But the main thing is peace, compassion, and forgiveness, and being able to recognize your shadow.
The shadow. Others. We could do like a whole 2-hour thing about the shadow.
Yeah, your shadow in others, and also being able to accept, actually, maybe there is a little bit of me that's like that, and it's okay, and have it not rock your world, and have it not make you feel that you're a bad person for sometimes having dark feelings. I can give you an example. Recently, I had these hellish neighbors. Hellish.
Let's
for
call
years.
Them.
Oh my gosh! And you would not. I can't even share here the thoughts that were going through my mind, because it would be complete horror of what I wanted to do to these people. Yeah, because they were so horrible. But I'll tell you the mildest one. It was reaching a point where I was having so much noise, so much interruption, so much kind of discord and everything. I thought, what can I do? And I started to have these childish fantasies, and I started to think of Roald Dahl and the Twits. Do you know that book? Yeah. So I thought,
I'm reading it recently.
Oh, really?
I don't know the book.
So there
you've
it is.
got to read Roald Dahl
really
and the
funny.
Twits,
I don't
because it
know.
really, no, it's really good. It's really
Is there
good.
a 5-minute summary?
No, there's this horrible couple. Well, they start out sweet, isn't it? But
Yeah.
because of their thoughts and the things that they do, they actually gradually become really quite ugly and all this stuff. And there's a great analogy in this book. But what they do is they start to, because they're in this codependent but very destructive relationship, they start playing these games with each other to try and antagonize the other person even more.
Oh.
And there was a time, which is a brilliant one, and if anyone's not seen the book, I hope it doesn't spoil it, where the husband glues all of the furniture onto the ceiling, and the wife thinks the world has turned upside down. Yeah. Do you know the one?
Yeah.
Assholes. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So what I'm describing is like, these are the kind of ideas, these are the kinds of games mentally that we can play with ourselves and with each other when we're in these loops where we're feeling triggered and we're not maybe fully aware of what we're doing. Sometimes that's what we're trying to do. To get our own back, we try and glue the furniture on the ceiling for other people, yeah, to get them. But in doing so, we turn our own world upside down, yeah? So it's these
wait,
things.
I live here too. Oops.
Yeah, it's like, oops. So I was thinking of all these different things, and I thought, right, when at the peak, I thought, what can I do which is not going to get me in trouble with the police? And I thought, I'm going to glue the door shut. I'm going to...
Do you know that this is being recorded live on Facebook?
I didn't do it. I mean, I didn't do it, but it's just...
He didn't mean it. I think he's making this up.
No, I'm not making it up.
fantasy.
Yeah, it was a fantasy. But what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I'm not perfect. I have a lot of dark thoughts as well. The point is
If
that
you're perfect, please raise your hand. Please
exactly,
contact us. We want to
exactly.
interview you.
But the point is that those were emotions and stuff I had to go through. I had to endure these neighbors for about 7 years. Yeah, this was a long process. And we went to court and everything like that.
Oh my God.
And I realized I have to, there's a saying which is really, really good. What cannot be cured must be endured. There are just some times in life where we can't cure the situation. We just have to endure it a bit and get through the other side. Anyway, I then, because I do a lot of work with the planets and stuff like that and their avatars. Yeah, so Saturn said, basically this was months ago, Saturn walked around my flat. And I knew it would be something to do with my neighbors. Yeah. And then, but after the last solar eclipse we just had, I had a very vivid dream. I thought something's going to happen with my neighbors. Something's going to happen. But the feeling that I had, it wasn't one of negativity, but I knew it was significant. And do you know what happened? The next day they started moving out. They've now completely moved out. It was just a cycle that I had to endure. But the planets were like, wait. And then I realized, I reflected, and this was very difficult because these neighbors, they have big drug problems, mental health problems, noise, dog, everything, the whole shebang. They even, no, I won't even say, but they affected my other neighbors as well. But you know what I had to do at one point? I was like, what part of me is like them?
See, that's why I love him.
Yeah.
And these are his glasses, by the way.
All right. But no, put them on. But I really had to say that at one point. I hadn't got the glasses on.
You know why? Why are we wearing these glasses? Because this is the Matrix.
Yeah. So, but just to finish up, I really had to. So you can imagine, these are people that had literally antagonized me. I was actually physically attacked by these people.
So in the symbology of the Matrix, what happened? So you suddenly saw that this was like a code running in your life. You hadn't taken the pill.
No, it wasn't that. I had taken the pill. The pill was recognizing I had to sit there and be as unpleasant as those people are. Just messing up my hair now. As unpleasant as those people are, I had to accept what part. What
my hair? Hello.
Oh no, I'm totally messing up my hair now.
Sorry. I'm gonna do a beauty demo on him later on. This guy does not know what brought him to us today.
Oh my god. And but I had to sit down and think to myself, what part of myself, as annoying as those people are, is like them? Yeah.
I want to freeze this for a moment, because this is the work that we all have to do.
Yeah.
If I feel pride, and all of you know who are in the appreciation game know that pride is a hide, as they say in the release technique, and pride keeps you stuck for years because you know it all, but you're not doing it. You're not becoming it. You're not overcoming yourself. You're always seeing, I am this, but you're not that. I am this, but you're not that. I am this superior to you. So this is the problem. And this is like, when we do that, what do we actually do? What happens actually when we don't own the shadow part? What happens?
But you know what as well? But just to finish up, what I also thought as well is I went into another thing, and I just thought, the thought that went through my mind, I thought to myself, maybe I was like them in a past life.
Or a parallel life.
Yeah, I just thought maybe I was like them. But then I also thought as well, what am I being taught? And in the end, now I'm glad these, and truly, even though they were horrible neighbors, truly, I bear no resentment towards them. I really don't. And there were times, obviously, where I was having my fantasies about what horrible things I wanted to do, more than gluing the door. But it would pass. You let the emotion pass, and then you get distance again and reflection. And I just thought, right, what have they taught me? And what they taught me was patience. I learned a lot of patience because I was being tested and triggered all the time, and I learned how to be taken to the absolute limit of something.
Saturn is about patience.
Absolutely,
right?
and exactly, and still come back. But it also taught me as well that you can still have compassion for your enemies. And in fact, your enemies can be your greatest teacher.
Teachers.
I'm going to say that one more time.
The training
your enemies
trainers
can be your best teachers. So they taught me a lot. Now, of course, I'm glad I'm gone. They're gone. And my neighbors as well. We're really glad they're gone. And we're going to have a big party. But these things are in sync, and it just had to be endured. And my neighbor's life has changed as well. My good neighbors, unfortunately, they've had quite a bit of death and separation. Mm-hmm. But they're also about to have a new child as well, together, married couple. And it's interesting how those energies have been releasing for us at the same time. And even they as well, we feel compassion for the people that are gone. But we're really glad they're gone. And with that, I'm popping to the loo.
So you want to go ask you guys, do you guys have a live question? If you want to, you can put it in the chat, or you can actually put yourself on camera. Know that we're being recorded, so I don't want people who are super secretive that wanted to, like, saying to me, I don't want to be recorded, like, please leave, don't do that. But if you do want to ask a question, maybe a more generic question, it doesn't have to be personal, put it here. But Ellen and I really, we care deeply about people working with us. And if we see people stuck because they're not getting the results, we can tell you what's going on. You're not doing the work. I'll just be blunt. You're not posting. If you're posting, it's basically we're not seeing your shift. And, and maybe what we're doing is not right for you, but, definitely there are ways that we can help you. We can always point you in the right direction. But, but what we do see is that the people who do the work, even though there's pain, even though there's lots of discomfort, the way that they are sharing and the way that they're being supported by our community and by us is they have the shifts eventually. Yeah. And the thing is, don't be ashamed when you are not feeling 100% all the time. We are going through extreme times, all of you, and those of you who work with me, you know that I'm not having the best times all the time. Like sometimes I feel depressed. Sometimes I feel like really lost as well. It's just normal. The thing is, I see it as part of a purging process. I see it as part of the growing pains of really becoming me. And, and we're not here to tell you that life is perfect. We're not here to tell you that this is an easy time. You should just be in the vortex all the time. You're going to be in and out of the vortex. You're going to be the flamingo and the tissue all the time. And so, yeah, so Hogarth will come back. I don't know, Louise, have you had a personal consultation with Hogarth? Because he would have to look into your chart And there's a lot of things that, so it's not just your natal chart, it's also the transits that are happening, and it's very different in Vedic astrology. And it's very worthwhile to have a consultation. It's really affordable. I would say bear no, do not say that's too expensive. It's not expensive. It's actually expensive when you don't understand your astrology. And some people don't believe in astrology. Edgar Cayce, the Sleeping Prophet, does talk about astrology, and that's why I looked into astrology. I think Edgar Cayce was one of the most documented psychics and medical mediums. Like, he talked without knowing anything. He could see what type of diseases people had. He could tell them what type of medicine they needed to take. He could start talking about past lives, although he didn't believe in past lives. He started talking about, Akashic records. Edgar Cayce was a guy who was really switched on. He spoke about astrology. And he said that astrology is not fixed. Astrology is to help us, and with free will, we can absolutely make the best of whatever is happening in our astrology. The only thing is that this is another thing. Hogarth and I were speaking about free will, and the planets. When you are unconscious, when you can actually know your chart, but when you are unconscious, you could still not have free will. So free will, according, Hogarth and I had the most amazing discussion. Free will has to be earned. And when you are not doing the work because you just know it, but you're not doing the real work, you don't have free will. So ultimately, you'll just end up having, what we call, you have the knowledge, but you're not changing, and you're not shifting your level of consciousness. We have a lot of questions here.
Good.
So. Yeah. The consultation with Hogarth was one of the best and funniest investments ever. Thank you, Michael. We love you, Michael.
Thank you.
From Anna, I also had some super worth it. By the way, I miss your winglets, Hogarth.
Yeah.
I hardly recognize you on screen.
Sorry,
now it's sunglasses now. He'll have to wear like a flamingo here from now on.
Unfortunately, the wings don't travel very well, so they're in my flat in London. So I'll make sure I'll get them back on. But also as well, just to this is something Angelique was saying as well. What I'll be doing in the future for people, because many of you will have had a consultation with me. So I want to say again, thank you so much, and what amazing charts you guys have. And it'd be lovely to know as well, like your feedback, maybe how things have changed, the insights and stuff that you've gained. But of course, feel free to recommend to other people as well. But I'm going to be starting to do packages very soon, because some people want to have more different consultations,
like a business one.
Business, money, relationships,
maybe for the spouse, maybe for the transits going on,
exactly,
very important.
Exactly, transits and stuff like that. So I'll start doing packages as well that people can buy, but and then might be like bundles. Let's say bundles, and then we'll have a bit of a discount. But you can also, I'll start doing easy pay as well. So some people, you can just break up the payment, because they might want to do something, but we are in COVID times as well. So sometimes, cash flow can be tricky, but the knowledge is so powerful. It's just really helpful for people. So I want to find a way that it can help people have
most of our players don't have financial problems because they're in our game builder.
True, but everyone is having a different experience, aren't they? Everyone has experienced this plutonic transformation differently. Unfortunately, Pluto comes along to some people and basically goes, right, I'm going to do this to your finances or your home or something like that, because that's the level it has to go down to for that transformation to happen. But people that are already doing this work, of course, Pluto is going to be a bit more gentle, and if anything, it's actually just going to help. It's just going to speed the transformation up, and it will be less painful. So there you are.
Yeah. So the way that I can say that Hogarth really helped me understand how astrology is helping us transform is that, sometimes when you read let's say you Google anything like Chiron retrograde, Pluto retrograde, it is very hard to actually understand the the bigger picture, because sometimes they write it and they have like, I don't know how many, like maybe 1 page about it or 1.5 page. And then your fear, you know, your subconscious fear is reading that article and thinking, oh my God, this is going to be the worst time ever. You start projecting the worst of the worst onto that journey. Whereas when we were interviewing Hogarth and I had spoken to him about my lessons, I knew I had to work with self-worth. I knew I had to work facing my fear of abandonment, fear of betrayal, fear of rejection, which were themes that I'm not gonna lie about it. I've had them for like, many lifetimes, but also with family members, the family that I was born with. And I had to look at it and I knew it was a blessing. I knew it was going to give me gifts. I knew that I couldn't blame people anymore. I couldn't say, you abandoned me, you cheated on me, you betrayed me, you rejected me. I knew that this was my lesson, and there was going to be a huge, huge reward on the end of it. And then, the way that Hogarth, look at the other interviews that we posted, the way that he spoke about it was so eloquent, so uplifting. And I think a lot of you who have had consultations with Hogarth, that, Hogarth is one of the most, optimistic people and most happy people in the world. We were having a blast, I think we were the loudest.
You start wearing t-shirts like this.
Yeah, we were in a restaurant last night, and I think everybody was so
start wearing wacky stuff.
And this is a Pluto Retrograde Transformer Die t-shirt. Yeah, you should make.
We had a big party last night, so we can't tell you everything.
And we were talking about Akashic records and I don't know, whatever. But anyways, what I want to say is like, when you have a real consultation and you can go to 1,000 astrologers, and every astrologer will be different. But what I like about Hogarth is like, and I follow some other astrologers, and I have to say some of the other astrologers just bring fear in my heart.
They can be a little bit.
And because you can look at Pluto and you can be a little bit like the Jungian analyst that I would study with, and I love the Jungian analysts, they're the deepest people in the whole world, but there's so much emphasis on the death, and not the rebirth. And and we're here to look at the rebirth and the ease of transformation.
Rebirth is the most important
because the thing is, like, what we're seeing in our game is like, you can have a Pluto retrograde, oh my God, I'm gonna die, there's gonna be a lot of karmic shit, or you can be the flamingos, like, this is good, this is gonna be amazing, so there's always two voices that you can listen to. And what I really find that Hogarth does really well is he emphasizes the good stuff of maybe the dark side. And and even that becomes then enlightening. And sometimes I listen to the interviews again and I hear him talk about it in metaphors, and I say, yeah, this is what I'm going through, and it becomes easier because it's not easy. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of things that we pushed away, that we didn't feel comfortable, confident, or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, look, the chat is full.
All of your clients. I finally got in.
Which house will Scorpio be in December?
Okay. So, so the way it will work is, so Scorpio as a sign or as a star cluster is essentially fixed in the sky. Where Scorpio falls in your chart will depend on your ascendant. So if you're, say, like your Aries ascendant, it's the easiest one to do because they're always the start and then the houses fall sequentially. So if you're Aries ascendant, Scorpio is your 8th house. Yeah. But if you're Taurus ascendant, then Scorpio will be your 7th house. Do you see? So as you go,
I think you need a separate video about this.
It would,
or you
yeah.
should do a course on it or something.
Yeah, maybe I'll do like a basics.
Yeah,
that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I should do. I should do a basics course where I would just do it. I do like make some videos and stuff like that where you can just understand the fundamentals.
Handy before people do a session with you because then they understand.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Already, yeah.
And where I'd also compare as well. Indian astrology and tropical astrology, because they both work. They still both work, but just in different ways. So that would help people as well. Yeah, that's good. I'll do a course when I get back to London.
Thank you.
What else?
My ascendant is Scorpio, she says.
Oh, so you have ascendant? You have Scorpio ascendant?
Yeah.
Who's that there?
Nadine.
Oh, Nadine. Hello, Nadine. Yes. So Scorpio ascendants, they go through a lot of transformation anyway. But basically, the water signs
They are the sign of the death tarot card.
Yeah, it's
Kali,
like,
the goddess Kali.
exactly. So the you could say the water signs and the fire signs tend to go through the most transformation overall, but the water signs tend to be the most interested in spirituality, because that's the element of water deals with the spiritual, the hidden, the metaphor, all of that kind of stuff. So Nadine, the Scorpio ascendants often have a lot of transformation in their life, or a lot of people have a lot of Scorpio energy, go through a lot of transformation. So
we have a lot of personal questions, and I would say, you know what, it's too much work to actually go through all your charts. So what I would do is like,
Anna Velezi, thank you so much.
So I think what the best thing to do is like, you're either going to shoot like very generic videos so people can have like follow-up consultations with you, because there's no way you're going to get like the answer, because there's so much happening in your individual chart.
And each person is unique as well.
Yeah, and I
each
think it would be a bit like crazy to think that just having a one sentence thing from Hogart is going to be enough. Like when I was going through a huge amount of transformation, I had a 2-hour consultation with him, and what was Hogart teaching me? He was telling me about the importance of me stepping into my shadow. So that is another interview that we need to do, and actually I gained a lot of benefit from him looking at the imbalance in my chart, because I had way too much of a certain planets and certain tendencies, and I had to balance it.
You just said it was amazing. Thanks, Nadine.
So really, I think of course you can ask these questions and get a one sentence thing from Hogarth, but is that going to really help? Is it really going to help you? I don't think so. I think his sessions are very affordable, so
but it could be just like a nice I could just do something which it could be something which is just like a few euro or something like that, but it just explains the basic principles so people can understand, because when you have your own consultation stuff done, you then start recognizing stuff in other people, and you're like, so by doing that work it also helps you understand the collective as well. I might have to totter off quite soon.
Yeah, because he has a meeting. Thank you so much, Hogarth. Thank you, everybody.
Can I just say hi?
Thank you, everybody. So Hogarth has, of course, meetings with his friends in Amsterdam, and we want to thank you.
Can I just say, Angelique,
for doing your work, for being talented, and for
we know what that means. I can't tell you what Ellen's doing, but anyway, it's a bit naughty, but anyway. But no, thanks so much for having me, and it'd be great. I'm sure you've probably put my website details on the thingy-bob. So if anyone wants a consultation, or they want to recommend a friend, or putting forward a friend or whatever, feel free to do so. And when I get back to the UK on Monday, I'll start working on bundles and packages. So please, watch this space. And I'll do an easy pay option as well, because once you discover one thing, you then have because like the chart in a way is almost infinite. So when a client comes to me with a question, I will be looking at that question and looking for that, and the planets will give information based on that, depending on the question, a bit like tarot. So if someone else has got a question about another area of their life, I can look at the same chart again, and we'll get even more answers come out, because it's all about the intention and focus at that time. So there's, so I'll make it easier for people to
repeat
have
your
different
website
stuff.
again.
So my website is called the Archetypal BluePrint.com, and that's just been written in. The Archetypal BluePrint.com. You can look and you can see all those different options. There's also a Fate and Destiny option as well. It's up to people whatever they want, but I'm going to start doing packages, so then that would be a bit of a discount, and then people can pay for different things that they want. So just drop me an email and feel free to get in touch. But thanks so much.
Thank you. So tomorrow night at 7:30 CET, we're going to present the new game, which is starting on Thursday. And the new game is going to be called Entrained into All Possibilities. And it's another download that came, and it's because we're reading the book Akashic Records for the Law of Vibration Study Club. And in one of the last chapters where they talk about all these people tapping into inventions for their businesses, for medical inventions, they were entrained into the Akashic Record. And so this is one of the things that I felt that we needed to work with. I have no clue what we're going to do. We're going to channel the teachings again. I have a few ideas, and you know, we're going to be like receiving it, but it's going to be amazing next week.
Nadine. Nadine
So,
left a lovely message.
yeah.
I'm going to leave these two beauties.
Yeah, you have to go. So bye-bye. See you later. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I'll catch you in town. I'll just
Yeah.
make sure I'm going to check my directions and everything.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
love you so much. So wonderful to feel your energies. Big smile on my face during the whole time. Yeah. You know, we're having so much fun. We're having so much fun. So yeah.
Yeah, let's bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
It was
everybody.
amazing.
It was
Have
amazing.
a beautiful Sunday.
Have a beautiful
sunny
Sunday. I know that when we were reading the post in the appreciation game, some of you were saying that it was a lot of like intense emotions last week, you know, and I think there were like some kind of solar eclipses or whatever. Yeah, there were some solar eclipses, and you know, I felt them too. But the thing is like every time you face something like that, you know, it's just like another upgrade is coming, because we often so much hang on to, you know, when we feel bad, it means that I'm doing something wrong. When you feel bad, it means that there's a discord between this and this. What feels bad is this, and your higher self never feels bad about anything. And your higher self always trusts that you can resolve it, that you already resolved it. The solution is already there, and the solution is just the way you look at things, the way you perceive it, and the way that you are going to rise up to the challenge. And you don't need anybody for that. You don't need to talk to anybody. You don't need to write emails. You just follow this voice instead of this. This is going through the pain. Listen to this. This is all we teach in the appreciation game. We're actually seeing a lot of people actually having, you know, some people are manifesting amazing stuff even when things are not going well. They're staying in this, like, they're listening to this. So let's say they're experiencing a lot of discomfort, or they see a lot of things go a little bit weird. They always listen to this voice and things always turn around. That's what we see in our community, right? And as long as they're not resisting what's going on here, and they're not blaming, they're just saying, you know, it's going to be fine. I know everything works out for me. They always are in the receptive mode. And in the receptive mode, they always get ideas from other people, or they suddenly get an impulse, or they see the situation in such a loving way that the situation gets transformed. And I cannot, you know, tomorrow we'll try and get some of the anecdotes, you know, without mentioning names. We'll share some of the anecdotes with you, for you people. So that you actually see this is really how it works. You know, we don't have to be blindsided by this. We don't have to let these emotions make us believe that, you know, it's not working, or maybe, you know, life is suffering. No, life is not supposed to be about suffering. Life is about challenge. There are some challenges, but the suffering is when we do not listen to this voice. And in appreciation game, we teach you how to discern this, which is the mass consciousness going into fear, 7 toxic ways of thinking, catastrophic thinking, blame, fear, worry, you know, generalization, time warping, etc. To this voice that always says, you know what, it's going to be fine, and it's already fine, and I already expanded, you expanded, you can handle this with grace and ease. And that's what we're doing, right? That's going to be fun. So yeah, an opportunity.
Beautiful day.
Cosmic 20-day energy. I have your Zohar here, darling Cherie. So it's on the table, so I have it with me. Thank you so much for that beautiful gift. We're gonna love you and leave you, because we need to be in Amsterdam doing lots of fun stuff.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you,
Lots of
everyone.
love.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.